Why don't I put us on stage?
Hi.
Okay, everybody, it's Hump Day, and it's Wednesday, 7 p.m., and we are very lucky. We have an unbelievably prolific writer of books about the paranormal, 20-something books and growing. Joni Mayhan, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Well, so tell us about your latest efforts and your latest book.
Oh my goodness. Well, I mean, I've written quite a few books. Most of them deal with paranormal. My last book was a story about a very special cat that was in my life. And it's kind of my life story too, that I shared after he passed away. So that one's not paranormal, but before that was probably haunted or New Harmony ghost stories. So I live in the town of New Harmony, Indiana. I moved here 9 years ago with no intention of doing anything paranormal here. It just was a place to land and a place to heal. And I got here and I was like, wow, every building in this town is haunted. And the more I started asking, the more I learned. And that I went on to write Haunted New Harmony. And it did really well. And I found that I really enjoyed those stories. So I opened up a ghost walk business, which I have been doing for 8 years now. And so I'm continuing to learn more about the ghosts that reside here in my town. And that's where I am right now.
Go ahead with your questions. She's the big ghost person, so she's definitely got a lot of questions.
Well, I've had a lot of strange experiences, so I like to hear other people's strange experiences. Can you share some? What's the craziest one you've had, or one that sticks with you?
Well, probably the craziest experience I ever had was at the Haunted Victorian Mansion, the S.K. Pierce Haunted Victorian Mansion in Gardner, Massachusetts. And I wrote the book Bones in the Basement about that house. And I used to kind of hang out there with the owners, and we would sit at the kitchen table talking, and it was always so weird. We always commented it was like a time warp. We'd be starting off sitting down, and it'd be 10 o'clock, and the next thing you knew, it'd be 2 a.m. And we would just have a good time. And one of those times I was sitting there and I was facing the doorway that led out of the kitchen to the foyer. And as I looked up, I saw a man's hand, a bony hand, like an old man's hand, materialize on the door frame, like, I don't know, 5 feet away from me. And I could see the bumps of his knuckles. And, it was kind of in sepia tone, like an old corpse. And then and I kind of gasped, and as everybody turned around to see what I was looking at, it vanished. So I've seen probably 5 apparitions in my lifetime. That one was the craziest, just because it was just a hand.
Oh my God, I would have freaked out. I would have peed my pants and ran probably.
So we had the predator, the quote predator in camouflage, walk across our deck and through the door in some energy form, and it was pretty wild. We got all of that on video camera.
Wow. That is pretty wild. Yeah, I mean, I think that if you're a sensitive or a medium, which I am, they are going to come find you, and you're going to have experiences. And it's never predictable. It's never really when I want it to happen, like when I have my camera ready. It's always, when you turn around. I saw my first apparition when I was about 7 years old. I was laying in bed sleeping, and I woke up, and I was having a nightmare. And it wasn't sleep paralysis because I was able to move, and I was fully awake. And in the dream, a very terrifying entity was pursuing me, and kept saying, we want you to come with us. And if you don't come with us, we're going to take your little sister. And if that's not enough, we're going to take your parents, and we're going to make you watch. And then I woke up, and there was an apparition in my doorway of my bedroom. And the door was open, and it just drifted closer to me and closer to me until it got right to my bedside. And kind of stood there for a minute and kind of started to lean over. And that's when I found my voice and I screamed for my mother. And again, of course, I don't know what she thought was wrong, but she definitely didn't think I was screaming about a ghost. So, she came running and it disappeared. So it's just been a pretty constant thing, but it's almost like Chinese water torture because you can't predict when it's going to happen. They like to surprise you. They like that element of surprise because it generates fear, and fear generates energy that they can use to do more terrifying things in the future. So
absolutely. Oh yeah, that's interesting you said that because I always used to think I always believed in paranormal, but I also thought it was just dreams. A lot of times my dreams are just dreams, but a lot of times I have dreams that come true or the warnings or whatever. And there's always been this being that kind of stalks me in a dream, even in my adulthood. And it's just interesting that you said that because the one time I did see something lean over me as well. I've never really talked about it. It scared the shit out of me, honestly. Now, I mean, I've seen shadow people. I don't know what the hell. What do you think it is in our dreams? That is it a certain type of being? I'm looking this up, like dream beings.
Well, I believe that they can get into your dreams. I have done some research, and I find that they get into uh, basically my subconscious as I'm falling asleep. So as your brain waves start to slow down, you go into what's called the theta zone brain waves, and it's like the gateway between waking and sleeping. And your thoughts are calmed down. It's your mind is less cluttered. It's easier for them to get in. And, I think they just implant themselves in there and have a lot of fun with you during the night. So I think it's really the powerful ones that can do that. I don't think I think ghosts have different levels of ability depending on how strong they are. And I think it takes a really strong one to get into your dreams. I've never had a good one in my dreams. Let's just say that. So it's always been negative ones. I don't look forward to it.
Right. We moved in here together in 2022, and shortly after we moved in here, we started having poltergeist activities, raps on the walls, things getting knocked off. So I put up a camera in the front hallway just to test it to see how it would work, and so it was nighttime, so it was in night mode, and at 3 whatever it was in the morning, the light switch gets flipped on, something walks past the camera, and her deceased boyfriend gives us a clear-cut, fully voiced electronic voice phenomenon on the camera. It was pretty wild.
It was nice because he hadn't really. I lost my parents' boyfriend and friend a couple years ago, and my boyfriend Dave, we were together 15 years, and he passed from cancer, and we have a son named Xander. And so he said Xander's name on the video, and that was clear as day.
Hello, Xander, just like that.
So there's something in this house or this land has something to it because we've seen all types of different things. Do you have that experience where there's just certain places that are more amped up with energy? Do you feel that, or?
Oh yeah. Well, the whole town of New Harmony is that way pretty much. People have been talking about it for years. There's so many haunted locations, but yes, specific houses and homes, I think, they will tend to hold on to that energy and make it easier for a haunting. And, they talk about things like limestone and water, quartz, anything that is conductive to hanging on to energy helps generate a haunting. When I my first house, I lived in Massachusetts at the time. We bought a little ranch house, and it was right under some high tension power lines. And of course, I knew nothing about EMF at that point. I wasn't, I was a sensitive at that point. I knew when there were ghosts were near, and we had a pretty severe haunting in that house, which kind of fixated on me. It didn't really affect anybody else for a while, which kind of put a wedge between me and my at then that time husband, because he wasn't having any experiences, but I was. And it wasn't until we went to sell the house that I learned what EMF was, because one of the realtors sent over an electrician with an EMF meter. And as he's walking around, he's getting really high levels of EMF. And I said, what is EMF? And he said, well, some people think it's for finding ghosts. And he laughed. And I thought, well, that's not so funny, actually. I didn't say anything to him because, trying to sell the house, we don't want to tell him, oh, yeah, it comes with a really nasty ghost. But, so, I think that, that was a situation where EMF was available for them. It was like an all you can eat smorgasbord of energy. And so I think, you have to look at all your environmental factors and even man-made factors. We investigated an old house at one point, and they were having a lot of activity in the basement. And I walked through with my EMF detector, and it went so high it flipped off. It turned off, and they had a faulty electrical connection, which could have led to a fire, but it was also feeding the ghosts. And I had another situation where we were brought in to investigate a restaurant, and it was a big restaurant. It was haunted. They have activity there, but one of the biggest things they mentioned was the kitchen staff and the wait staff were at constant odds with each other, like big knockdown, drag out fights. And so I did a preliminary sweep with my Mel meter and discovered that the ticket senders, where the waitress will send the order to the kitchen, were really old. And when I put my Mel meter near those, again, it went so high it went off. So, and they had two of them on either end of the kitchen, which was creating what we call a fear cage. The EMF was so high in there, and it could create, levels of agitation. I mean, it can also generate Alzheimer's and cancer and all kinds of bad things. So I don't know that they replaced it. I'm sure they have by then. This has been a number of years ago, but I told him, I said, if you replace these, a lot of your paranormal issues and your issues with your wait staff and your kitchen staff is going to go away. So, really just a lot of factors. Is your house old?
Is our house old?
No, it's about 20 years old.
Okay.
But it's on Native American land.
By water.
It's by
Yeah.
the big river that comes down from Pennsylvania all the way to the Chesapeake Bay, and we have government installations near here, big ones, and it's Native American land all around here. The Susquehanna Native Americans were here.
Well, and the other factor too is Lala, you're a medium or sensitive. You're going to draw them in. We're like lighthouses. I can generate a haunted house. Like, all I have to do is move in. And if there's a ghost in the proximity, or even if I just go somewhere, sometimes they go, hey, I like the way your energy looks. And then next thing you know, I have a ghost in my house. So you're probably doing the same thing.
Yeah. And I didn't know I was doing that for most of my life. I honestly didn't. But that's one thing that kind of freaks me out still. What do you call them? Hitchhikers? No.
Mhm.
Yeah. Hitchhikers are the ones that follow you. Do you do a certain thing before you go out to a shopping center to protect yourself, or is it just going to happen anyway?
Well, it's funny because I've written 2 books on paranormal protection, so I know what to do. And the things that work well for other people don't work for me. I think my energy is just so intoxicating to them for whatever reason. I wish I could tap into it, but they still follow me regardless. What I do that seems to help the most is I make sure I'm grounded and shielded. So I ground my energy. I take deep breaths and pull energy through the crown of my head and negative energy through my feet until I feel pretty grounded. And then I create a bubble shield around myself. And that's been my most powerful thing. And I work with my spirit guides too. I ask them to keep me protected. And then if all else fails and I haven't been able to keep everything off of me, I have a shaman friend named Michael Robichaud, who's very ill right now, and I feel so bad for him, but he has kept me protected for the last 15 years. So if something really bad comes into my house, he gets rid of it. So that's what I do. But other people, it's, sometimes it's just as easy as wearing a certain stone, or, a cross, or some kind of religious medallion, or, a prayer protection. Or I've seen left investigations where the investigators have circled their cars in salt, so, it's something different works for everybody. Calling out to loved ones to keep them protected. Sometimes that works as well. So there's just so many different factors, and none of that seemed to work for me until I got to the point where I am right now.
Mm-hmm. I have a question. I have a conspiracy that RH negative bloodlines. Are you RH? You don't have to tell me, but I'm O negative, and a lot of us are abductees, or we have spirits around us, or it's an A. You can be A positive or A negative. This is my conspiracy.
Well, as a matter of fact, I am O negative.
Damn! I told you. What I said. I'm telling you. I think something with our bloodline. I really do.
Well, that could very well be possible. When COVID was so prevalent, I never got it. I never got it. My father's also O negative, and to say I had my sister never got it. And we're all O negative. So I think there is something to the bloodline as far as everything goes. But the mosquitoes, they love me. So
Yep.
I don't know. But you could be onto something there. So that's very possible.
Thanks. All right, I'll shut up. Go ahead.
You're good. Keep going.
So I heard you talking about Bigfoot. I've never experienced a Bigfoot or a what do you call them? Werewolf? They're not werewolves.
Dog man.
Have you experienced?
Yeah.
Can you talk
Yeah,
about
I had
that?
a Bigfoot experience when I was just a child. So I grew up in the country in southern Indiana, and we had like 40 acres of land. And there was a patch of woods that I loved to play in because it had an old hollowed out tree that I kind of made my clubhouse, and I just go hang out there and bring my dog Sassy with me, and we'd hang out there. And it was an unseasonably warm Groundhog Day. So, February. And I got off the school bus and I was like kind of excited to get out in the woods, because it was nice and warm, and got out there and walked through the woods to my tree house, and was playing. And then all of a sudden I heard a noise, and my tree was on a small hill, and it went down to a stream, and then there was another hill on the other side. So it was like two hills with a stream in the middle. And I walked to the edge of the stream to where the sound was coming from, and there were dry leaves on the ground, so I could hear something shuffling through the leaves, but I couldn't really see it because it was behind all the bramble. And so I'm standing there and I'm thinking, maybe this is a person, but it's weird because we were way out in the middle of the woods. There were no people. And all the times I'd played out there, I'd never seen anybody. And then all of a sudden it kind of went past a tree, and I caught a glimpse of something like a brownish red, like the color of an Irish setter dog. And it looked like fur. And at first I thought maybe it was somebody with those old fashioned suede jackets that had the fringe under the arms. I thought, oh, this be a hunter or somebody out here. And I started to kind of retreat back to my tree. But I kind of just was curious. I've always been a curious person, even as a child, especially as a child. So I stood there, and this thing kept moving. And then all of a sudden it went past the brush, and it stopped, and it must have sensed me and turned, and we locked eyes. And it was about, I'd say, at least 8 feet tall. It was very, very big, very skinny though. And the fur was, didn't look like a healthy animal or whatever. It looked like it was starving, and the fur was kind of matted looking and stringy, and it just locked eyes with me. And my dog started barking. So I grabbed her by the collar and we took off out of the woods. And it was one of the scariest things that's ever happened to me, because I just knew this thing was going to eat me. It looked hungry. Like would it eat a child? It probably certainly would eat my dog. And of course I got home and I was an imaginative child. This happened after I'd already seen a ghost in my room. So, nobody's going to believe me. They're like, yeah, she's got a good imagination. She'll probably grow up to be a writer one day, which, is true. But, I know what I saw. I can still see it in my mind's eye. And it was really scary. And years later, I was probably in my 30s before I gathered the courage to talk about it to anybody. And I reached out to Troy Taylor, who, he's written a lot of books, and he kind of holds court, or he used to hold court in Alton, Illinois. And he had Ghosts of the Prairie website, which was one of the first paranormal websites available. And I tell you, I was on that website reading everything I could, at that point in time. And I finally reached out to him and said, told him my story, and he confirmed. He said, oh yeah, he said back in the 70s when that happened, he said there were over 1,600 Bigfoot sightings in southern Indiana and southern Illinois. He said, I guarantee you saw something.
Oh.
So it was good confirmation for me. I know what I saw. Nobody can ever convince me. Got a good look at it. I mean, good 10-15 second long look at it. And it never felt threatening to me, but it still scared me, because it's nothing that, especially 8 years old, you're not expecting to see in the woods.
Right, exactly. And there's the missing 411. There's so many.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, a lot of people think it is a Bigfoot or some cryptid that's taken.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And, as an adult now, I look back, I think, do they recognize children versus adults? Do they have any empathy for a small human being versus a large human being? Like, I know I was maybe in his territory, but he was also in mine. I'd spent a lot of time at that tree and I had never seen him. It was like he was moving through the area. And he was just kind of more curious about me than anything. Maybe I was the first child he'd ever seen. I don't know. But it ended, and I had this great story. And if I knew what I know now, I would have gone back to look for footprints and stuff. I know we did go back and we thought we saw something, but there were a lot of dry leaves on the ground. So, it was hard to really make out anything. But yeah, so that's my Bigfoot story.
That's cool. I mean, I find it interesting. I don't know if I'm brave enough. Not that you can control when it happens, but I mean, I'm on the fence if I want to actually see one, because I believe, I try not to think about it too much, because I believe, especially for me, if I think about it, it'll happen eventually. It could be a year. So I think
you manifest it. Yeah, you pull it in. And it's funny, because as of the last couple of years, I've become friends with some people who actively go out and Bigfoot hunt. And I have been on a couple of Bigfoot hunts with them, trying to have another experience. And this upcoming weekend, we are going to, there's a Bigfoot convention happening in Red River Gorge in Kentucky. And so we're going to go spend a few days out there and hopefully hiking around. I know we won't see anything. Well, I doubt we'll see anything, because there's going to be a lot of people there. But, it's become kind of my new ghost hunting. Well, I still ghost hunt as well, but it's like I just want to kind of verify. I mean, what are the odds that somebody would see Bigfoot twice? I mean, it's probably pretty slim, but I'd like to see what I saw when I was a child and just kind of verify in my own mind that I did see it.
Oh yeah. Now, you think that it could be interdimensional, right?
Yeah.
Do you think it's a cryptid being, animal mix, or do you think it's interdimensional or an alien, or?
I believe that they are flesh and blood, but I also believe that they are interdimensional. I think they come through holes, vortexes, holes in between dimensions, and they pop through. I've had a lot of discussions with my friend Rachel, who's a big advocate, or is very smart and very into Bigfoot and done a lot of studies. And she believes that they come here to maybe breed, that maybe in their dimension, it's not safe for them to raise offspring. Because if you follow some of the Bigfoot sites and teams and things, I mean, you do see quite a few younger adolescent Bigfoots. So, maybe there is something to that. It's safer here for them to raise their young. It's also why we don't see them find bodies or anything. If they have a hole that they can zip through and just disappear into another dimension, then we're not going to find it. So I don't know. I mean, I love a good mystery. And I think that's part of what it is. Like, I still love to go do paranormal investigations because there's still a lot of mysteries surrounding that as well. But this is a new mystery to me, and I'm like intrigued by it and want to learn as much as I can about it. So it's fascinating.
I got hooked on the interdimensional thing when I had all these friends that would go out to these Bigfoot hot spots, and they would find big, huge footprints. But they would find them on one side of the body only.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Only right-hand footprints or only left-hand footprints. And you go,
okay.
well, where's the other leg? Well, it must be in the other dimension.
No, yeah. Well, I don't know, and that's why I continue to look for them, because we don't know. We don't know a lot. I guess we don't even know that they exist. If I had not seen one with my own two eyes, I probably wouldn't believe in them, because it's such a far-fetched idea that there are creatures out there that, we've never captured, or we've never, all the videos are real grainy, and blurry. And, we haven't had a clear cut, sighting, or, found any, pure evidence, like, the remains or anything like that. So, it'd be easy to say, this is just a story. But I saw one with my own eyes, so I know what I saw. So I'm going to keep looking.
Sorry, what did the eyes look like?
I don't remember that. I remember the shape of it, and I remember the fur. I feel like it almost looked like a cross between a human and an ape. Like, there was fur on the face. Eyes seemed very human. I can't pull that detail of memory from my brain from 8 years old, but I do remember we locked eyes. It had dark eyes. It reminded me a lot of a gorilla, except for taller and standing up perfectly straight.
Yeah, because a lot of people say dark colored eyes. One time I wasn't supposed to, but I went into some catacombs a long time ago, and it was all dark, and it was just a dead end. I didn't have my flashlight yet, and this thing must have been like 8 feet tall, and all I saw were these huge almond lime green eyes just stare at me.
Wow.
I get scared real easy, but for some reason I just looked at it, and I always wondered what it is. So I always ask about the eyes. I want to figure out what the hell this thing was, but it disappeared.
Yeah. Well, and it could have been, it could have been a lot of things. It could have been something else interdimensional from a different a different dimension, or
Right.
maybe they all live on the same dimension and they come here, to feed, or I don't know, research, or I don't know. It's fascinating.
I want to ask you, did you ever have experiences with, like, maybe people you've helped or people about demonic entities or things like that? I like looking up that stuff. So
Yeah, I've had a couple of demonic experiences. I am clairaudient. So my first introduction, my first inkling that there's a ghost nearby comes from a sound similar to ear ringing. It's like a static sound. And it's either one ear or the other. And there's one in my room right now. If I want to know where it is, I just turn my head and I can pinpoint where it's standing in the room. And if I want to learn more about it, if I feel like I want to open that doorway, I'll tune into the sound. It's my doorway into my mediumship. And then I could start pulling information. I see a mind picture, clairvoyance, and I start getting information and knowledge. But when I have encountered a demon twice, 3 times, I don't get that. It doesn't make the ear ringing sound, but instead I get a very strong sense of fear, and it's like it just comes out of nowhere, and it's like that fight or flight instinct that makes me want to run. It feels oily and dirty and greasy and just repulsive. Like repulsive is probably the best word that I can describe. And even with my experience and all the books I've written, demons are above my pay grade. I am not messing with that. I had an encounter with something that might have had some demonic leanings or associations back. It was my first paranormal experience. So I had just gotten divorced, and I wanted to learn what this ear ringing meant. And I was, still pretty much as sensitive. I hadn't broken into mediumship fully yet. So I joined a paranormal group, and I started working with a psychic medium and another friend who was a sensitive, same thing as I was, or same stage, and we would work together. And I encountered something really horrible it was called the Soul Collector, and I went on to write a book about it. But it was located in these prison camps, the ruins of, and it was in the middle of a state park in Rutland, Massachusetts, and people go hiking there. It's a great location, and it was perfect for us as budding mediums and just as paranormal investigators. The park was open all the time, and you could go out there and walk through the old cells and in the old root cellar and into the ruins of the old tuberculosis hospital. And everything was perfectly fine for a long time. We went out all summer, but I had a bad experience. I got dumped by somebody I thought I was going to be with forever. Came out of left field. I just got dumped, and I was devastated. I was sad. And my friend said, "Hey, I know what'll make you feel better. Let's go ghost hunting. We'll go out to the Rutland State prisons and ghost hunt." Well, that's something I've since learned that is never a good idea. Never go to a paranormal investigation if you're not in the right state of mind, because your defenses are down. Any kind of protection you have is gone. And something latched onto me and stayed with me for several months until they finally got rid of it. But there were definitely signs that it had. What they told me was they felt that it started off as human, but it had a demonic attachment before he died. So maybe the demon's still with him. But it was horrific, and I was very near to possession. Like, I was losing track of time. People couldn't get a hold of me. My personality was changing. I was retreating. I was having suicidal ideologies, thinking about driving my car into a tree for no reason. And, he was trying to collect me because he collected souls, which was what made him powerful. So, yes, I have had some demonic experiences. No, I don't want to have another one.
Right.
I'm not eager to repeat it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we have a friend that's on a delivery team. So, and she's, has had lots of experience. I mean, some truly ugly ones with all those exorcisms or delivery sessions.
Yeah.
Lala read her, and Lala went, "Oh my goodness." They track this thing in a mental box, and it's sitting there, and it's angry as heck, waiting until it can get out and punish all of them. It was wild.
I get pictures and I decode the pictures. I'd never read something like that on someone before. All I saw was a box and this creepy eye looking around, and it just felt so angry. And when I explained it, that's when they told me, well, she did deliverance and things like that. So that's creepy. I've had experiences where I have had something. It was with me for a couple years. I didn't even know until the end part where I'd wake up with bruises or, just physical things would happen to me. And I mean, I had a friend, she was scared of me after a while because I would call her phone at like 3 in the morning and leave a voicemail. It wasn't my voice. It was like a creepy, groggly, like male voice cussing her out. And
Oh,
I don't
wow.
Yeah, I mean, on my phone, it does say that I called, but I don't remember doing that. And just all this other stuff. So after I got help for it, um, I like to learn about it because we're not taught this kind of stuff. And I think a lot of people have attachments and don't
Oh, yeah.
even.
Yep. Yeah. In fact, I've had, people often come to me when they have something paranormal going on because of my books. And they see me as a resource. And I am to a certain degree. But I had a friend that came to me and she said her daughter had dropped out of college. She was a vibrant art student. She was so creative and beautiful. And she got a new boyfriend and moved in with him. And the minute she moved in with him, things started changing. She dropped out of school, became just a recluse, and stayed in the dark room on the couch all the time, and was vicious and not friendly, nothing like her former personality. And she said, can you reach out to my shaman friend and see if he can take a look. And yeah, sure enough, she had 3 very negative attachments to her, and he removed them, and it was almost instantaneous. She broke up with the boyfriend. She went back to college and began, generating her art again. It became that person her mother remembered. So it always makes me think, that story makes me wonder how many people that have done really vile, horrific things, mass murders, and just awful things. Maybe that they have attachments that are whispering in their ears, that has caused a lot of this.
I've thought about that, and I honestly think yes, because there's so much more to our world than
Yeah,
we realize. And I think that
absolutely.
obviously some people are born, there's something not connecting in their brain, something's wrong, but I think most of the time there is an attachment whispering in their ear because,
Yeah.
like,
Well,
they want.
maybe they might be easier targets too for something negative, people that are already um, predisposed to
Right.
have, a situation like that. I mean, they're kind of magnets for, it's like collects like, or like attracts like. And, somebody really dark and negative, is going to pull in more bad stuff. So they may have started off bad enough, but then they, end up really bad,
Exactly.
so.
Do you want
No, you keep going. You're doing
Sorry, I'm
great.
excited you're on. I have.
Yeah, she really is.
Have you ever had an experience with a UFO or aliens or anything like that?
Um,
Or things in the sky?
not yeah, well, kind of. I mean, same parcel of land where I saw the Bigfoot, which is funny. When I was a teenager living there, I was sitting in the living room watching TV with my stepmom, and my dad came in. He said, "You guys need to come see this." And I guess he didn't come get us until most of it was over. But he was a pilot, so he knew what planes look like and what the lights look like and everything. He said something came over the property really low, and it didn't make any noise, but the dogs were howling at it. And he watched it. It was unlike, it was dark, so it was nighttime, so you really couldn't see a lot. But he said it was unlike anything he'd ever seen. And then it just all of a sudden it zipped straight up into the sky, and then it just stayed there in one spot. And so by the time I got outside, it was in its spot in the sky. And so, I'm a curious person. I parked myself in the yard and sat and watched it for a long while. And it just sat there like it was watching me back. And then just all of a sudden it made like a right angle, like up, not like a falling star down. It went up and then zigged off and it was gone. So yeah, I do feel like I've seen something, but not a close encounter. And I will tell you, aliens scare the piss out of me. like that's my Achilles heel. I'm I'm fascinated by it, but I think after seeing that movie, what is it called, The Third Kind with Mila Jovovich, that movie freaked me out. Like owls in the windows, but they're not really owls. You know what I'm talking about?
Fourth Kind.
Fourth Kind. Okay, I always
That was one scary abduction movie, especially when whatever was doing the abduction started really harming people.
Yeah, yeah. And they made it look like a documentary, like something that had really happened and that they were, covering the original, I mean, I couldn't have got on my phone faster when that ended to find out if that really happened or not. And I was really relieved that it hadn't. But, they're all based on some measure of truth. I mean, things like this, like, you talk about, I think this happened in Alaska and people disappear there a lot.
Yeah.
Is it alien abductions? Is it Bigfoot? Or are they getting lost in the woods? Or, what is going on? But
so the rate of people disappearing in the United States has been trending downward for a few years, but it started like 10 years ago at 500,000 a year. And now it's down to 200,000 a year.
Okay.
Just no idea where they've gone.
Yeah, yeah, and I love like Skinwalker Ranch and all those. I love watching those shows. I'm always fascinated by, cattle mutilations, or some of the stories about Skinwalker Ranch before the show came out. I used to write for a website called The Ghost Diaries, and they asked me to write a very long story about it. So I read every book I could get on it. I interviewed, I don't know if you know who Ryan Skinner is, but he's a big Skinwalker Ranch expert. And he, and I put together this story. And I think the story that scared me the most about that was that in the evening, the family that lived there before, and I can't remember their names, but they had a couple of dogs, and at night they would watch as these blue orbs, like lit up, like the size of a, I don't know, basketball, would zip through the yard. And one night they let the dogs out to go get them. Like, the dogs were adamant to get out there anyways. And the dogs took off after them into the dark. And of course, the blue orbs zipped across into the darkness. And then all of a sudden they heard the dogs both yelp. And they went out, they didn't see them. It wasn't until the next day they went out and they found what they think was the dogs. It was like a puddle of goo, or two puddles of goo. So whatever it was got the dogs. And those kind of stories, I'm like, oh man, if I ever see a big, blue basketball floating through the yard, I'm getting inside. Like, I'm brave, but I'm not that brave. I don't want to become a puddle of goo.
So our orbs are different. So they fly typically around the North Star and over our neighbor's house. But a few weeks ago, we had one come up on the deck.
Oh, wow.
Right across the deck in front of our sliding glass door, and you could see the top of it on our security camera because it triggered the security camera.
Oh,
and
wow.
That's the exact same spot where we saw energy being come down, and you could hear it thump on the deck. And then it stood up with its humanoid shape, reached up and grabbed our camera and turned it to where it wanted us to look.
And then it lit up, it started to light up the
and
neighbor's
that
roof.
started lighting up the neighbor's roof. And when it gets really lit up, you can see through the roof.
Oh, we got that on video.
We have it on video through the roof, and they're taking them.
So that's
wow. Do you have this posted somewhere that I can access?
Yeah, on Facebook. You should, we'll point it out to you.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll see it. Yeah. That's pretty wild. I feel like some people are meant to see these things and other people are not. I mean, I know you guys must run into your fair share of skeptics, and I do as well. And I never try to convince anybody of the existence of ghosts because I can't prove it. But, I just feel that they're not meant to have an experience until they are. I think maybe, we were born with special equipment. We have an extra sense that allows us this access to an unseen world that nobody else can see, which is, I think, a gift. it's a
I
gift
think
and a curse, you
I
know.
had
But
I had three near death experiences before I was 1 year old, and
oh
so it
yeah,
just changed me
okay,
forever.
I'm going back
yeah,
real quick.
Have you
yeah.
had an NDE?
No, I have not. Nope, I have not. I've been this way since I was a child. And, you know, we talk about it's usually hereditary. It usually goes from mother to daughter. And my mother doesn't really, she's got some weird abilities. Like I call it parking lot karma. She can go into a parking lot and always get a front spot because she just fought like she just knows turn down here, then turn here, then turn here. And then right as she gets there, there's a car pulling out and she pulls right in. So she has some abilities, but it's not, you know, like nothing like what I have. And, you know, you go further back and people didn't talk about that back then because they would have probably been locked up in a sanitarium, you know. So it's possible my grandmother or maybe even my great grandmother had something, but there were no stories. Nobody ever discussed it. So I don't know.
Especially, well, I grew up in the South in the Bible Belt, and my father was a minister, so
Yeah.
I didn't say much. I
Yeah.
just did.
No,
Because
I
I was
kept mine to
afraid of,
myself.
I was afraid, you know, the family would get attacked.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's true too. I guess I never thought about that. I know I would bring it up as a child and, it, you know, it was it was difficult anyways, just growing up in that era, you know, I was bullied a lot, so I didn't have a lot of friends and, you know, bringing that upon myself would have made me an even bigger target. Who knows what they would have called me. But so I just kind of kept a lot of it to myself, you know, until much later in life. And that's when I allowed myself to experience it.
Let me pick on her a little bit since she just came back. She would read for people because she couldn't stop it. In other words, something was forcing her to come out with the reading, and
Yeah.
she got persecuted for doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I believe that. Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Pretty
when I
well.
was younger, well, in my early 20s, late teens, I didn't know not to talk about it at like work or my boss was like, "Do you have a husband that played the violin?" And she's like, "Yeah." And I almost got fired just for saying that because I said, "You might want to contact him because he's sick." And he was extremely sick and it scared her. And so
Yeah.
it was just crazy. I learned to shut up, and now I don't shut up at all, but it's nice that we can all find a community. I didn't know that we had an online community of all these different types of, you know, experiencers and people with gifts. It's nice, you know.
You know, I started I'd say about 10 years ago, I started teaching a paranormal 101 class in Gardner, Massachusetts. And I ended up bringing together, like people were drawn in by it because there aren't a lot of places where you can talk about this stuff where people aren't going to think you're crazy. And the group was probably maybe 15 people. You know, some came, some went. But a lot of them were able to, with not necessarily, I helped, but it was a lot of just everybody, the energy of everybody being together and working together. And we would investigate together. And you know, we're lifelong friends at this point, but some of them turned, you know, unleashed some pretty powerful psychic medium abilities, and they're now have their own teams going out. So about 6 months ago, I said, you know, I kind of miss doing teaching. I kind of miss that. And I had tried to do it here in New Harmony once before. I got like 2 or 3 people, you know, and it wasn't worth, you know, putting together these elaborate classes for 2 or 3 people. So I quit doing it. And, but I've built up a bigger following now, you know, doing the ghost walks for 8 years and all the books I've written. So I started them back up again. And now we have a group of anywhere from 6 to 10 people that are coming regularly. And it's just so great to get together with people who have gone through a lot of the same experiences that you've gone through, because you feel very isolated, very lonely in this, because it's very rare that you would happen upon somebody else who has the same situation that is willing to talk about it, you know. So we pull together and we come into this class and we're able to, you know, share our experiences, and it's just been blissful. It's been really nice.
That's good. That's important because, like you said, it is very lonely, and which causes depression. And I find that, depression is never good, but depression with people with psychic abilities is just a disaster usually, So that's
So
good that you.
what are you reading? I know you say you read people. What do you read from me?
I know this sounds weird. This is just a picture I've been getting the whole time. They're showing me this well. It looks like a hole and there's some entity in it, but to me it looks like a well.
Okay.
Does that mean anything? Like, did you ever visit a place or a basement with? I don't know.
Not to mind, nothing that comes to mind, but sometimes, it's symbolism. So, it could be, it's something about, maybe I've got a ghost in the well. I don't know.
It just, I walk down a basement. There's wood, it's all wood walls, wood floors. It's almost like an old bar or saloon or something. And down these steps, it's just this dark hole with little bricks around it. And it's just this odd feeling. And the whole time I've been talking to you, this keeps popping up. And I'm like, all right, well, I don't know what the hell.
Well, I will tell you this. If I come across something like that, I'll probably not pursue it. So maybe what you're telling me is in my future, not in my past.
Okay. Yeah. I know that sounds crazy. That's why I always feel
Nothing.
weird.
No, there's nothing. Believe me, after everything I've been through, nothing sounds crazy to me anymore. I find that interesting though, and I'm going to keep my eyes open. So if I see any wells, I'm out of there.
But usually what I do is I read people's eyes. So one eye shows their outer self, how they present themselves, their life, people around them. And then the other eye is their hidden self or their health or loved ones that passed over or some people that have been abducted. I'll see certain things. And it's always interesting. It's hard. I have a hard time making eye contact in real life with people because I used to think that people could do the same thing I did. And so I'd always look away,
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting.
Do you see any loved ones with me?
You have quite a few, especially there's this, a female, she doesn't look old. She's almost around your age, honestly, maybe a little older, but not like a grandma or anything like that. But she's been on what would be your left side?
Her left side.
So I don't know if you had a friend pass or somebody, but she feels like a friend. She doesn't feel like a mom energy, but maybe, I don't know. But I can't see your eyes that well here. First of all, I don't have my glasses on. But if you want to send me a close up of you, I can better.
It's an amazing experience. So you should do it.
How do you read people?
I don't read people. I don't do readings. And I think some of that I'm probably capable. I just I've had a couple psychic medium friends and I've watched what they go through. People hound them. They don't leave them alone. They can't take a single step without consulting them and finding out if this is the right thing to do. And so I have never pursued learning how to read people. Now I can walk into a house and I can tell you if you have a ghost there, and I can tell you what the ghost wants, what it looks like, maybe where it came from. So that's I'm more medium than psychic. But, again, I could probably tap into that. But, there's, you get to a certain point where you get really tired of it, the constant battle, the constant influx of information. Like when I'm out somewhere and my ears ring, I don't tune in unless I have to, because I have found that if I tune into them, chances are they're tuning into me too, and I may have a ghost following me home. So yeah. I just try, I kind of just want to live my life. I'm not as intrigued by, there's ghosts everywhere. I go to, there's a Dollar General here in town that has a ghost in the back. And, I hear it and I'm like, okay, I guess I need something at the front of the store because I don't want it following me home. I'm not that interested in who it is, We
went to Reno and Virginia City.
Uh-huh.
And we did this tour through Virginia City, and all these haunted buildings, and one of them flew home with us.
Oh.
You said Dollar General. I went to a dollar store and nobody was in there where I was. And in the middle of the aisle was a broom just literally bouncing. And so I go up to the front, like, do you have a ghost in here? And she's like, oh God, what's it doing now? It was just crazy, you know?
Yeah.
But I've slowed down on readings a lot because last time I looked at someone's picture, it was a nice lady, nothing wrong with her, but I literally got so dizzy, it scared me. And so I don't know how to control that well. So I'm learning how to do it, but I just don't want to. I got enough shit going on, like, so I don't like the physicalness of it, you know?
Yeah. No, I think, we have our lives to live as well. It's not like we live in a bubble and nothing happens to us, normal human things. And, you could be going through stuff and, not really have the energy or the time to want to deal with this stuff. Like my mother just went through, I had knee replacement surgery in March, and I'm pretty good now. I've recovered enough that I'm going Bigfoot hunting over the weekend. But my mother just had the same surgery like last Wednesday, and so I've been spending a lot of time at her house, and her pain level's high. There's a lot of negative energy, surrounding all the pain. Pain definitely pulls in things, but she's always had a ghost in her house. And she had an experience one time years ago, a couple of experiences. She was getting ready and she was getting ready to pull her shirt off to put on another shirt. And she felt a hand on her back, like, a strong, like a definite hand. She turned around thinking it was her husband, and there was nobody there. I have a younger sister who passed probably about 6 years ago, and she's always thought it was my sister Danny, but it's not. I go in and I've identified it. I think it's somebody who once lived in her house years ago, maybe just stuck around. But so when I was there at her house helping take care of her, I was feeling it. It was really strong, and I thought, man, she's feeding this thing with all this pain. And then she tells me the next day, she said, we had the weirdest thing happen last night. She said, we were hearing this noise and we couldn't figure out what it was. And we finally tracked the sound down to an old air purifier that was like in the corner with stuff on top of it that nobody even looked at in, I don't know, years. And the button was like on the bottom, like inaccessible. She does have cats, but there was no way the cats could have gotten to it. And it was just running all by itself. So I'm like, yep, there we go.
Oh my God. Yeah, no, oh my God. It's been an hour.
Yep.
I would love for you to come back on again.
Okay.
Because this is really, really, really nice.
Yeah, I just ask me and I'll come back. I love doing this. So, and it's great talking to the two of you.
Thank you. Now, you can promote anything? Do you have anything coming up, or where can people go?
Well, I mean, all of my books are on Amazon.com, and you just have to search my name, Joni Mayhan. And if you're interested in my website, I've got a lot of information on there, including my ghost walks, which you can get there from JoniMayhan.com or hauntednewharmony.com, same place.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. We have another show coming up tomorrow night, so pay attention. And Joni, thank you so much. This was very illuminating. I enjoyed it.
All right. Thanks for having me.